Well, I just want to say at the end of the Q&A about today's ceremony, I look forward to just taking a few moments to talk about the storm and where we stand. But first things first, it's been such an honor to be a part of this swearing in today. I had experience in the last 24 hours in being sworn in, so it's nice to be on the other side now, swearing a great man in. And I just want to thank the Commissioner once again for agreeing to serve the City of New York. And I could see in the eyes of folks around the room the warmth and the respect that the men and women of the NYPD have for this leader. So, Commissioner Bratton, welcome home.
Good to be home, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
With that, we welcome your questions. Yes.
Yes, hi. Commissioner, welcome back. Congratulations.
There's a few familiar faces in the audience.
That's right.
My question is, in your remarks, you talked about the good things the police department does and then the alienation seen in the community. And you want to get to the bottom of that. What do you think is the problem?
From my perspective, a perspective that the mayor and I share, that, and I use a medical analogy in conversations with him during the campaign, that because we had similar experiences in Los Angeles, as it relates to the stop, question, frisk issue, which is the issue, that crime is down such extraordinarily low levels in the city versus what it was, that there's an expectation, or there should be an expectation, that the intrusion of police into citizens' lives should also diminish. But we had the reverse happening. And this is where Commissioner Kelly, and I've got the greatest respect for the Commissioner, but we have a divergence of opinion about this issue. I am quite comfortable that we can have less and achieve the same results. More focus, and Operation Crew Cut is an example of more focus, an extraordinary operation that is really helping to deal with the levels of violence. So it really is a difference of opinion. And the former commissioner, his opinion was that stop, question, and frisk and Operation Impact were the way to go. There is an absolute need for some level of stop, question, and frisk. It's the basic tool of police. Your tool is questions. Tool of police are also questions. And the mayor and I are in complete agreement on that issue.
Let me add one quick thing. I want to fill out the medical analogy because I have to say over the last year or two I've turned to Commissioner Bratton for advice, and I've found him to be a really great teacher. And when he said to me that stop and frisk is like chemotherapy, used in the right dose it saves lives, used in too strong a dose it can be dangerous. And I think that is just a beautiful summary of the reality of how we have to get it right. And we will get it right. I have absolute confidence we're going to get it right. But that's one of the things that he helped me to understand about where we need to go in policing. All right, I'll call on others. Yes. Yep. I'll start, and then the Commissioner knows a lot about this because he has really been one of the great leaders in this nation on the idea that we have to deepen the connection between police and community, and we have to be upfront about the challenges we face. So obviously, within the limits of the law and within the limits of confidentiality, we're going to look to be as transparent as we can be with every agency. I think it's not just the methodology that matters, it's the attitude behind it. It's the strategic point. We need the people of this city to know that we're leveling with them. When we do something that isn't as good as it should be, we need to be comfortable saying we've got to do better. When we have more work to do, we have to be comfortable saying that. So I very much believe in transparency when it comes to this agency and every other. Would you like to add?
If I may, in terms of, I think many of you who I've worked with in the past appreciate that I am committed to the greatest degree of interaction, transparency with you as possible. Some things we just can't talk about from time to time. But I'd encourage check with your colleagues in Los Angeles in the sense of, in that once very secretive department, the relationship between the media and the police department. Take a look at its website, the information that's on that website. I am a great believer in transparency, accessibility. Many of the press in Los Angeles had and still have my personal cell phone number. It was never really abused. Some of you have it. that is Lenny Levitt in the room here? I actually wanted to point out that the fact that Lenny was here, well, there's a change in and of itself, that Lenny would be let back in the building. And one of the first things I'll do next week is stop down and stop into the shack and have a number of you up to the upstairs, take a look at the 14th floor, come up and see what it looks like. It's a lot to be proud of up there in terms of a lot of the things that have gone on.
Yes.
Lisa Edwards from Fox 5. Commissioner, congratulations. And you talked about healing the disconnect between the community and the police department. What do you plan to do to accomplish that?
Actually, a lot. That the mayor has made it quite clear, and I'm reinforcing that the concerns about a progressive mayor coming in, that basically reining in the police, he has made it quite clear that his concerns are around the issue stop, question, frisk, and that in all things we want to do it constitutionally. You're going to hear this ad nauseum from me: constitutionally, respectfully, compassionately, because that's what it's all about. And the idea with the cops, and I like cops, at the same time I think I know how to talk with them, I know how to lead them, that right now we have a force that really is uncertain about what should it be doing. Should it in fact be engaging? Should it in fact be disengaging? In some respects it's like the force that I inherited in 1994, which, as you know, many of you that were covering the business, had become risk averse. For 20 years they focused all their effort on staying out of trouble. And we asked them to go in harm's way, and they went in harm's way, and they made the city safe. We're continuing to ask them to go in harm's way, but to do it in a way that we're not alienating huge portions of our population. And I think we can, in fact, do that. Better training, more focus on the criminals among the general population, and also the public accepting responsibility that this is a shared mission. Police cannot do it alone. Public safety is not the total responsibility of the police. The public have an obligation, working within their communities, with their kids, with their families, to help us. So that I think in Los Angeles, one of the reasons I think the mayor hired me was I think we began to really get it in that department, and I'd look to bring many of the things that work there here.
Go over to this side for one, and then we're going to go over to this side for a while. Yes?
Mr. Brad, you spoke about looking at other departments for new ideas. What are some that you've already identified?
Oh, sure.
Don't get them started.
Yeah. No, the mayor was this morning had an opportunity to meet a number of them. That some of the chiefs that are up here, that Kathy Lanier from Washington, Chuck Ramsey from Philadelphia, Ed Davis, former commissioner up in Boston, Gary McCart, Charlie Beck, my successor in L.A. Imagine flying 3,000 miles into a snowstorm to be here, so I really credited him with coming in. Connie Rice, who one of the leading civil rights advocates in California, who we work closely with. She likes to brag that Charlie and I are the only two L.A. police chiefs in the last 40 years she hasn't sued, because we get along with them. So what are some of the ideas? Technology, for one. LAPD's got some incredible technology. We've got incredible technology. Kathy Lanier, things she's been doing. But more importantly is what they're all doing to deal with the issue of community. All of those cities have significant minority populations, ethnic populations, that traditionally police in those communities have been at odds with each other. Every one of them is making gains. L.A., Chicago, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. Every one of them this year had record amounts of crime reduction. And it's not just because the cops are getting better at solving crime. It's because the communities in those cities are beginning to work with them. So we have a great pride in this city in terms of the things the NYPD does, but it's only one of many departments. So we are going to be actively sharing and including as we go forward.
Let's go over to this side for a little bit. Louder, please. Could we stay on this? I'm sorry, I should have said that. Let's stay on the topic of the events today, and then we'll go to off topic after. Yes.
You set yourself apart in the campaign as the only candidate who supported the Inspector General.
Yeah.
Both parts of the CSA. Where are we along in the process of finding a night channel, and to what extent was the Brad today, and hoping you can hear that?
Well, I am very much a believer in the legislation that was passed. And we're going to find an effective Inspector General. We're going to find someone who, by definition, commands public respect and the respect of the men and women of this department. I'm certainly going to discuss the situation with Commissioner Bratton before we make any choices and seek his input. I want this to be a choice that we all feel good about. Of course, I want to emphasize, the law is right. This individual will serve independently from the commissioner. At the same time, I expect a good and respectful relationship. The commissioner did extraordinary things in Los Angeles. Anyone who has not yet looked into, with some detail, into what he achieved in Los Angeles really needs to, because it is in many ways a model for some of the things that we're going to be able to do here. But one of the things to remember is he had an independent police commission, he had a mayor, and he had a monitor. And all of that he worked with very gracefully, very positively, very communicatively. I've talked to some of the individuals involved. I've heard from their own mouths how positive the relationships were and how everyone made each other better. And that's what I'd like to see here. Let's go to the middle. Yes.
Anti-terrorism, counterterrorism, and things of that.
I think we all agree that the city has been kept safe in many respects because of the improved intelligence gathering and analysis capabilities. But like the issue of stop, question, and frisk, it is important to understand the parameters that, one, legally you need to operate with under. Here in this city we have the handshoe issues, and there are certainly the national issues. That's one of the areas that the mayor has asked that I take a very close look at as I reinsert myself back into the NYPD. All that we're doing, do we need to do all of it? So I can't answer your question in an informed way until I actually get a sense of, and even then, it may take a little while because I have to get my clearances before I can be exposed to. There's a room in this building I can't go into because I don't have the appropriate clearances.
We'll make sure you get that. But I do want to note just... I'm sorry?
In the process of filling out those applications, my level of clearance will be upgraded fairly quickly, but that be confident that the appropriate clearances for the exchange of information at all levels of government are in fact there. But and having had the same experience in New York, in my case, it's a matter of just reactivating the clearances that I once had.
Just to add, I think the words the commissioner constantly invokes are exactly the right word. This is true of all that we do in policing, and it also refers to the question of our relationship with the Muslim community of this city, large community in this city, growing community in this city. Our efforts will be constitutional, respectful, and compassionate, and that's going to be the watchword. Let me go over this side. Yes.
Hello, Mayor. Commissioner Rat, Mario Diaz, WPIX. You described yourself as a change agent during your speech inside of the room beside us. This said, as the stop and frisk discussion obviously goes into change moving forward, there are currently a number of high-ranking chiefs who have crafted and implement stop and frisk in the city under the previous administration. So change moving forward for you will it be internal, will it be policy, or all of the above?
The changes that will be necessary, actually, it's a great question because this is a department that has been in a city administration in terms of its law offices, et cetera, that has been really moving in one direction. Clearly, you have a mayor that has been elected on the idea he's going to go in another direction, and policing necessarily follows in terms of some of the policies and procedures that we practice in those political directions. That's the way it works in a constitutional democracy. So what we're going to have to look at very closely is just that issue in the sense of how do we refocus in a way that we still remain effective, keeping the crime numbers low, keeping the city safe from terrorism, while at the same time ensuring that the concerns of many who feel that they're being over-policed are in fact addressed in a way that the officers feel that they're still empowered to do what's necessary to do, but the community also feels empowered to ensure that they're not being abused in the process.
Now let's go to this side, way back.
Welcome back to New York. I'm Mitch Levy from WOR Radio 24/7 News.
You sound like you.
Yeah, he really does sound like he's got the perfect radio voice. Go on.
Commissioner, just to follow up with your voice on the fact that you'll be working with two people looking over your shoulder, federal monitor and an IG. How do you plan to deal with that? And is that in any way diminished?
Piece of cake. No, facetious remark. But in Los Angeles, understand I worked for 7 years under the most significant consent decree. The one here in New York, if it goes forward, it would not be a consent decree; it's an imposed monitorship. But that one in Los Angeles was huge, 170 some odd paragraphs. Almost every operation of the department was covered by the consent decree. I had a police commission of 5 commissioners appointed by the mayor that I reported to. They had their own independent inspector general. And as the mayor has alluded to, that you talk to any of them, and our relationship was transparent, it was inclusive. The inspector general, we actually initiated increase of his powers, that he was invited into every crime scene. He was invited into all of my senior staff meetings. He was invited into my disciplinary discussions. He was so successful as Inspector General, he's now the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District in Los Angeles. So that if you commit to make it work, it will work. And the mayor and I in our discussions that we will commit to work very closely with his Inspector General. And if there is a monitor, we'll work closely with the monitor. That you have to look at it from my perspective. They are shields in some respect that I'm able to stand with. That my police commission, my Inspector General, when there were controversial shootings or incidents, the fact that they represented the public and not just the police, it gave great credibility oftentimes to our findings having relating to shootings or other incidents. Similarly here, if there are people in those positions that the public comes to trust, that works to the benefit of the police department.
That's right. Rich.
Mr. Commissioner, Rich Lamb.
You have a good radio voice too, Rich.
Thank you so much. It's nothing like this. Anyway, Mr. Commissioner, given the way that you left this building the last time you were on, I wonder if you could be back in this building as commissioner. I mean, it's got to be sort of mind-blowing.
It's like being away from a home that you were intimate with for 20 years and then coming back and place it totally remodeled. What Commissioner Kelly did in the aftermath of 9/11 in this building, in this department, is phenomenal. I don't know how much access that you've had to the real-time crime center, the JOC, or up even in the Commissioner's office, the conference room capabilities. This is a phenomenal operation. Something that I will open up to all of you because I want the public to understand what has been done. All credit to Commissioner Kelly in terms of his efforts on crime. When I visited the Real-Time Crime Center in 2006, I think, as chief of L.A., I immediately flew back and created one in L.A. So L.A. now has, next to New York, the strongest real-time crime center in the country. It's spent millions of dollars on it. This is a very different place than it was. Terrorism was not an issue when I was commissioner last time. I don't think I spent 1% of my time on terrorism in 1994. Now, based on my briefings the last couple of days, it's 30-40% of my time.
But just to follow up, there was when you left last time, there was sort of a tension between you and the mayor, Mayor Giuliani, and now you come back in at the top. I mean, it's just mind-blowing, surprising.
You want him to say mind-blowing, don't you?
It's one of the things I pride myself on is always moving forward and learning from my mistakes. That there's no denying that the previous mayor and I had our contretemps, that some of which were created by me. And I understood going into Los Angeles. The first question that Mayor Hahn asked me, am I going to see a repeat of what happened in New York? Because he was very edgy about that. And I promised him that would not occur. And the fact that he flew 3,000 miles today to be at this ceremony, I think, was reinforcement that I learned from the events of 94 and 95. And that'll help strengthen the relationship with this mayor, because I understand more fully the importance of working collaboratively together so that there are no surprises, that the job gets done much better when we're working together than when we're seemingly working in different directions. Yes.
Kathleen Horan, WNYC. How soon do you expect to drop the Floyd appeal and to possibly settle the case?
Well, we have to get now to the work of the legal specifics. But I've said throughout, we intend to drop that appeal. We just have to figure out the best way now to proceed. But we'll have certainly word for you on that in the coming days. Yes.
There still remain pockets of high crime in the city, particularly in certain neighborhoods in the city. What are your plans for driving crime down further in these areas, particularly? And what crime areas are you going to be specifically focused on in your first months in the job?
With the understanding that I'm literally, just getting back into the NYPD, but over the last couple of weeks of transition, the briefings I've been receiving, that in terms of trying to keep the crime levels low, there will be spikes. I'm sorry, it's going to go up from time to time, but one of the great strengths of the CompStat system in this department is the ability, when it spikes, you get in there very quickly and find out what's causing the spike and deal with it, the ability to push it down. That the issue of, for example, the 7-5 precinct, I think last year they had 18 homicides. I think in 1990s, they might have been up into the 150s. It was called the Killing Fields, the 7-5. It was one of the first precincts I went to do a community meeting in 1994. What I was encouraged by in 1994, in that literally all minority precinct, that the commanding officer was Joe Dunn, a white police inspector. And when I was introduced, got a nice round of applause. When the congressman of the area at the time was introduced, he got a nice round of applause. When Dunn was introduced, he got a standing ovation from the 500 people in the audience. Why? Because he was committed to doing something about the crime issue there. And the idea of going from 150, rough figure, 1990 to 18, I think there were, average precinct here in Manhattan had that many homicides in 1990, 18. Some of the precincts here in Manhattan this year had none. So that there's a lot that can be done, and it's the focus. The Operation Crew Cut, you're going to see a lot more of that. That is the focusing on these crews, who are very different than the gangs I had in Los Angeles. The Crips and the Bloods in Los Angeles and Chicago are very different than the entities creating the crime, violent crime problem, and so many of the murders and shootings, particularly in the housing developments of the city. They're crews, and you've given a lot of attention to that. And it's appropriate because that's a magnificent program that will certainly be expanded upon. It will be interweaved more significantly with the narcotics entity. I've got about 1,800 detectives working narcotics, a couple of hundred detectives working the crews. We will grow that initiative, but we will do it very carefully and selectively because it requires a great deal of skill to do those types of assignments. And so there's a lot of creativity that can be applied here, building on what Commissioner Kelly has already created. And basically some of the creativity I can bring in from Los Angeles, Chicago. Gary McCarthy's been doing some phenomenal work in Chicago, not only in knocking his crime numbers down with the gangs, but building community involvement. He's really into a lot of the new wave of policing in terms of dealing with the issues of constitutionality and legitimacy. So we'll be sharing experiences with departments around the country.
Just want to add one point. I really appreciate the fact that the commissioner is focused on some of the challenges we face when it comes to pedestrian fatalities and traffic fatalities. He's a big believer in the direction that we're going to take the city in, the Vision Zero concept. Gave a really fantastic speech just days before we made the final selection down at, I think it was NYU, on that very topic. And I had the honor of naming our new transportation commissioner, Polly Trottenberg, a few days ago. And I can tell you that Commissioner Trottenberg and Commissioner Bratton are going to become fast friends as they focus on.
She already lassoed me to the ground last night.
See, she's a forceful leader, and so that there's going to be a real focus on taking on that challenge. It's not crime necessarily. Some end up being considered criminal incidents, but others are not. But it is a huge public safety problem and an area where we're really going to focus a lot of energy.
By reference to that, Mr. Mayor, just looking at the reports this morning, that we've had the beginning of the year, 2 homicides, and we've also had 2 traffic fatalities. So last year, I think the figures were pretty close. I haven't seen the end-of-year figures. The number of people whose lives are lost in traffic-related incidents, that a life lost is a life lost, that family grieves. So that intensive focus on traffic issues is going to be one of the areas the mayor's asked us to prioritize.
Okay, we're going to do 2 more on topic. I emphasize on topic.
Commissioner, another one of the criticisms from the department past is misuse of CompStat. The idea that CompStat has been kind of a good idea turned on its head. Numbers have been fudged. Felonies have been labeled misdemeanors. Do you think that the system needs to be looked at? Do you think?
Coming in into an organization, one of the first things you do is basically you audit everything. You take a look at what's working, what's not. So even CompStat, something I certainly have an intimacy with from the many departments I've worked in, that it has built-in checks and balances. If there's a 3% variance either way, there's an audit team that goes in and looks at every report in a precinct. Have them in precinct captains and maybe some officers have been foolish enough to play games with the numbers at great risk to their professional careers. Unfortunately, that's occurred. But none of it to the extent that I believe that it would actually impact the overall crime numbers. But you need to keep putting additional safeguards. One of the things I will look at CompStat is it's like, in some respects, it's like the combustible engine. Can it be refined? Can it be improved? Can I use less gas to power it, if you will? And again, I've had the opportunity advising departments around the country these last number of years. So there's different ideas I can bring back to take a look at everything going on under the hood. Can we refine it even more?
Sally. Right there.
Sally,
you're
sorry, Ricky just entered the room, so I naturally went over that direction.
That is correct. You did the right thing. Sally.
Hi, what sort of instructions do you plan to give officers regarding stop and frisk? I know there's been a lot of talk about that. Are you planning any forms or any specific things that they're going to have to do differently?
Several things that, as the mayor has already indicated, he's moving to identify an inspector general, that the uncertainty of the monitor, that although I've met with the individual that was named by the judge that was taken off the case, that we're going to move as quickly as we can to reassess the policies, the procedures, the training that we're giving. And the quicker there's an IG, and if there's to be a monitor, the quicker a monitor, because I don't want to get 3 months in, and then the IG comes in and says, well, geez, I don't think you should be doing it that way. You should do it that way. Or a monitor coming in with a judge looking over his or her shoulder. So we'll take a look at what is the current practices, what is the current supervision, what is the current training, and see what refinements we can make. But the quicker we get a resolution of what are the oversight mechanisms going to be, the better for all, because then we're working together and we can say to the public together that these are the best systems in the country, the police, Inspector General representing the city government, and if there's a monitor.
But do you have any instructions before all of that happens?
My instructions to the cops are echoing, and the mayor already indicated that do it constitutionally, do it respectfully, and do it compassionately. You're dealing with human beings. And that's what I ask of my cops in anything that they're doing. And if they make a mistake, we'll correct it. If they basically do something intentionally wrong, well, we'll deal with that in a different way.
I just want to add to that. I have to tell you, sometimes in life you make a decision. It takes a while to know if it was the right decision or not, and sometimes you find out very quickly. I cannot tell you how many men and women of the NYPD have come up to me spontaneously and thanked me for selecting Bill Bratton as commissioner. He commands tremendous respect from the men and women of this police force. And there is a warmth they feel, because I think it's quite evident in everything he's done in his life that he loves being a cop. And he believes in the cops, and it's something he's devoted his life to. So I think the fact that he is going to send that message about doing things in a constitutional fashion, doing them respectfully, doing them compassionately. And I also know something else about him, because I remember talking a day or two ago to you about what your plans were, and it was clear you were raring to go to get out to the precincts, to meet directly with the men and women at the local level, the men and women who make this department work every day. So I know he'll be doing that. I'm looking forward to joining him on some of those trips. And I think the commissioner is going to get the word out.
You can come too.
You can come too. We'll even invite you. But I think the commissioner is going to get the word out very clearly. Even before any formal new training efforts are put into place, he's going to get the word out about what he as the leader of this agency expects. All right, now just choreography here. We're going to do, I have a credit on an off-topic question over here, so we're going to start over there. We'll do a few off-topic questions until Phil Walczak says we've done enough. And then I'm going to ask at that point, I'll ask Commissioner Doherty of Sanitation to join Commissioner Bratton and I have a couple of words to say. Just hang on a sec, we'll do that in a moment. I'll have a couple of words to say up front on the storm, and then we'll see if there's any immediate questions. So now we're off topic for a few minutes, and who do I owe? Okay. I don't accept the question as stated, respectfully. I made clear my real respect for Mayor Bloomberg. It's not a secret that I've had some disagreements with him on policy, but I honored with a whole heart what he did for this city. And there's also some areas where I very much agree with him and look forward to continuing his policies. And I delineated that a bit yesterday, and I'd done so more beforehand. I appreciated President Clinton's warm comments about Mayor Bloomberg as well. But I think everyone who spoke at the inauguration spoke from the heart and talked about their own understanding of our city and what we need to do to move our city forward. I'm very comfortable with all that was done. Yes, Grace.
Mayor, we heard from Commissioner Bratton that he hasn't gotten the full security clearance yet. At this point, he was appointed several weeks ago. I'm wondering if there are other members of your staff, newly appointed members, that are still waiting on a security clearance, and then for people who maybe haven't been officially announced as hires, people in your press office who are obviously working with you today, have they gotten the clearance that they need?
Grace, I can simply say it this way. Everything is, you can see I'm standing next to one of the great police leaders of this country, and I think what he was not trying to say to you, he doesn't have access to the information he needs to do the job. There's just some formalities that have to be gone through. And different members of the administration will go through that, and it will happen very speedily. So we're absolutely comfortable that people are getting the information they need. People are doing their work well from the jump here. You're going to hear about that a little bit more in a moment regarding the storm preparations. But in the first days of the administration, a lot has to happen very quickly. But we're very proud of the fact that everyone is at their station doing their work and everything is functioning smoothly right now. Yes.
Mayor Blasio, Susan Candiotti from CNN. Nice to see you, and welcome to Commissioner Bratton. There's been a lot of talk about this, especially in light of the inauguration yesterday, from people who are wondering when you begin implementation of many of your initiatives, social initiatives. There are a lot of, and this applies really to policing policies as well. A lot of liberals and progressive liberals, Democrats will be watching very closely to see how your success may help candidates in the future years and those seeking higher office in the years to come, depending on how well your initiatives perform. Can you respond to that?
I want our initiatives to perform well. I see it the other way around. I respect the question, but let me just put it the other way around. We have a job to do. And what I was talking about yesterday is a very tangible work we have to do. Yes, I framed it in a larger vision. I framed it in moral terms as well. But it's about actual functional work we have to do every single day. It's about keeping people safe, bringing police and community back together. There's a lot of very tangible, practical things that will allow us to do that. It is about, for example, I mentioned the paid sick leave law that we're going to expand upon. That's going to be a high priority to get that updated law passed so people who are sick don't lose a day's pay or a week's pay, so families are not dislocated. It's not about the theory, it's about the practice. And so people in this city, I've got one simple constituency, 8.4 million New Yorkers, and if they see us moving forward, if they're feeling the effects of this change, that's what it's all about. If others elsewhere take some good lessons from us, that's gratifying. I'll tell you another thing. All you have to do is listen to this man to recognize we're all learning from each other all the time. And I look forward to, as I did in Washington a few weeks ago, learning from other mayors around the country, what's working well for them and how we can get this job done practically for the people in New York City. Michael. The flavor was strawberry. Oh, no, wait, you meant it in a different way. I actually did have strawberries in my breakfast, so that I was more apropos than I realized. Look, it's a powerful moment. I went to sleep knowing exactly what was ahead of us. I went to sleep, as Commissioner Doherty will appreciate, with visions of snow in my head, and especially aided by Monsignor Romano's constant invocation during his invocation of, or evocation in the invocation of snow. So I woke up thinking about the immediate task at hand. We had a senior staff meeting at City Hall this morning with the deputy mayors and with our incoming Corp Counsel, Zach Carter, our now budget director, Dean Fulhan, and some other of our City Hall staff. And we got right to work talking about what we had to do this week, talking about the preparations around the snowstorm, and then I went over and visited the Sanitation Department Command Center. So we've been in a very operational mode already today.
Are there any mementos you brought in to start personalizing the space, or are you working out of your office?
We're in such a operational mode that we have not had time for mementos yet. I'm thrilled. I was offered the opportunity to bring Fiorella LaGuardia's desk back into City Hall, and I gratefully accepted. So I'm honored that in my office I have the very positive influence of the desk of the greatest mayor that this city has ever known. But really, honestly, from moment one this morning, it is about getting the job done operationally. There'll be a day for decorating. There'll be a day when things calm down, but I'll be a lot calmer when the storm system blows out to sea, I'll tell you that much.
One or two more, guys?
One or two more, yes, right there. Yes, young lady. I'm going to call you young. You have a lovely aquamarine scarf there. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
John Miller is coming back to public service and being involved. What will his role be exactly?
I just want to start by saying I'm very excited that he's joining us. I think he brings tremendous expertise. And I also know that the partnership that Commissioner Bratton has with Mr. Miller is extraordinary. And I believe in that kind of teamwork. So I'm really excited he's joining us. But let me let the expert speak.
No, we are very fortunate that John is coming back in. He'll be coming in, starts on Monday, actually, as the Deputy Commissioner for Counterterrorism. He'll also be working very closely with the intelligence entities in the department. And will be more than that. He'll be one of my key advisors, as you might expect. John and I have known each other now over 20 years in a number of professional and personal capacities. He was the Deputy Commissioner for Public Information here. I brought him out to L.A., where he created a very formidable counterterrorism operation next to the NYPD, probably the most significant counterterrorism operation in the country. And he did that in a very short period of time. He was then recruited by the head of the FBI, Bob Mueller at that time, to become an assistant director at the FBI, where he spent several years. And then he was recruited by the head of DNI to go to work at DNI. So to give you a sense of
what DNI is,
Department of National Intelligence. So John was in the inner sanctums of government on the issues of gathering of intelligence and analysis of it. So he is extraordinarily conversant with inside and outside. His Rolodex would be the envy of any one of you, that in the sense of there's really nobody that doesn't take his call. He's going to be a phenomenal addition to this department and to this city's security.
And you cannot have his Rolodex. One more to this side, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Bratton, first, Jonathan Mason, NBC. I wanted to ask Commissioner Bratton if he has an update on the threats coming from the Pakistan Taliban that they have been plotting to strike New York, and so leaders are claiming that in retaliation for recent drone strikes. Mr. Mayor, if I can follow up with you regarding the question here, there are some critics who say that some of the rhetoric, like the use of the plantation term, was somewhat offensive, and do you have any concerns about that? Were these speeches vetted by your staff in advance?
That I had, continuing the tradition of Commissioner Kelly, that both yesterday and this morning I had the briefings by the Counterterrorism Deputy Commissioner, Intelligence Deputy Commissioner, that I can't speak to, as you might appreciate, the specifics of what you're referencing, but I've in fact been briefed on the state of the world, if you will, that and will continue to follow that practice. Miller will be very involved in that coordination when he gets back on Monday. So, again, no direct threats at us at this juncture. That I'm sorry? I'm not going to speak to the validity, if you will, at this time, in terms of the discussions I've had about it.
Yeah, just state very clearly, you know, the individuals, the clerics who gave remarks, I want to thank them all for their service to our city. Each and every one of them serves as chaplains to city agencies that protect us. And I respect each and every one of them and their right to say that which they feel is appropriate. So again, I am very comfortable with everyone's remarks yesterday, and I think the ceremony represented the positive aspiration of New Yorkers for a more just city. With that, I'm going to ask Commissioner Doherty to come up and join us. We got the dream team here. We can take on any storm anywhere. So let me give you a couple updates. Commissioner, if there's anything I leave out or could say better, you will jump in, and then we'll welcome some questions. So as I said, it would have been nice to have a nice calm first day, but we have snow on our mind, and we are focused like a laser on protecting the people of this city and getting everyone ready. We're going to have a more detailed briefing for you a little later in the afternoon at the Office of Emergency Management. But I want to say from the beginning, the meeting I had this morning with our deputy mayors and other key leaders of the administration, we're very focused in that meeting. I have to commend Commissioner Doherty and his extraordinary team at sanitation. You just have to spend a little time in that command center to see some tremendous professionals at work. They are focused, they are ready, they had their game faces on, and it's extraordinary how much is already being done on the ground to prepare for this storm. We, of course, want to say from the outset, we understand that weather conditions are unpredictable. In the last hours, we've heard a little progress. The numbers seem to be going in terms of number of projected inches going down a little. We sound like now we're in the 5-inch to 10-inch snow range. That's a lot better than what we were hearing a few hours back. But that could change again. So we're going to be ready for that and more. We're talking regularly with state government. I've spoken to Governor Cuomo yesterday about the situation. We're in touch with regional transportation agencies. The Department of Sanitation did call a snow alert beginning at 1 a.m. this morning. And just a couple of very practical updates. I don't drive myself anymore, but when I used to drive myself, this was the one update I wanted to know the most. Alternate side of street parking is suspended today. Can't say that enough times in this city. Alternate side is suspended today. But do note that sanitation crews not required for snow clearance and snow-related activities will continue to collect garbage and recycling today. Again, Commissioner, you'll correct with any updates when you come up. And as always, sanitation is making its best efforts to continue its everyday responsibilities while preparing. As everyone knows, children everywhere need to know that schools are open today, and buses have been running as normal. 450 large and smaller salt spreaders have been loaded. 450 salt spreaders have been loaded, have been out salting in appropriate locations today. Salt spreaders are being deployed whenever there is accumulation of up to 2 inches, and they can both salt and, of course, be turned into plows when needed. Plows have been attached to 1,700 collection trucks in order to clear snow from the city's 6,000 miles of street. That'll keep you up at night, 6,000 miles of street. And Plow NYC on the website, on the city website, Plow NYC is activated today so the public can track where snow clearing equipment has serviced in their area. Now, some updates for the people of our city, and I ask my friends in the media to please help get the word out to the people on these important points. Regardless of the number of inches of snow we get, one thing we know for certain is going to be very cold, unusually cold, and we have to be cognizant of what that means for a number of New Yorkers. I want everyone to please keep an eye out for their neighbors. If you have neighbors, particularly senior citizens who might need a little extra help, if you know of anyone who's disabled and might need a little extra help, please look out for your neighbors. Please make sure they're warm. If they need extra help, please do what you can or alert the city so we can help. The homeless population that's on our streets faces special threats in these coming days. If you have contact with anyone who is homeless and is not in a shelter, encourage them to come into shelter in these next days. Encourage them to get to some place where it is safe and warm. We'll be working closely with the Department of Homeless Services, and I have to say this is an area where the NYPD does great work every day, trying to make sure that homeless individuals realize that shelter is available to them. I want to remind people, anyone who's commuting this evening, if you're commuting home, please take extra care. It's going to be cold. It could be icy. We want people to take extra care, take it slow getting home. If you have the option of mass transit, please use that option. If you have the option of leaving a little earlier, please do so. I want to note, and I got a great example of this earlier at sanitation. Best thing we can do as New Yorkers is to get off the streets this evening so sanitation has the optimal conditions in which to work. This is the finest sanitation department anywhere in the country. They do extraordinary work in emergency situations, but the one thing they need us to do is to get out of the way so they can do their work. So if you don't need to drive this evening, don't drive. Stay home and let these professionals get to work to make sure everything will be good for tomorrow morning. Office of Emergency Management will be fully functional and ready. Again, not only snow expected, but ice, snow drifts, strong winds, a lot of different features here that we have to be ready to deal with. In addition to the two agencies represented here, the Sanitation Department and NYPD, again, we're working closely with the Fire Department, with the MTA, OEM, all of the agencies that respond to crisis. We're also closely coordinating with our social service agencies, as I mentioned, the Department of Homeless Services, also the Housing Authority, and HPD to make sure that people who are in situations where there may not be enough heat know that they have support and they have options. So we have literally all hands on deck. I want to thank our first Deputy Mayor, Tony Shorus, who is in the back there, for coordinating all these efforts from moment one this morning. As I've said, when I announced his appointment, he is no stranger to crises, including his time as Executive Director of the Port Authority. So he is leading effectively and ensuring that all of the agencies are closely coordinated and we are ready for whatever hits us. Commissioner, if there's anything I missed, I'd like you to take a moment to fill it in.
No, I'd just like to point out the most important thing that was said, and I want to reinforce it, is to get the word out to the public. Please, stay off the roads, get home early, and even people that want to go for a walk later this evening should really think seriously about it. With this temperature dropping and the winds picking up, visibility is going to be very bad out there, and temperature is going to be very low. So I'm not only concerned about plowing the streets and everything open as much as possible for tomorrow morning, we also have to consider lives out there on the street, and people have to be aware of that. Their own safety and the safety of their friends is very important during a storm like this, and it can't be said strongly enough. Please stay indoors, stay home, get through the storm. We'll see what tomorrow brings us, and we'll handle it from that point on.
So again, we feel absolutely confident of the city's preparations. We're going to be ready for whatever comes, but I cannot say that strongly enough. Please stay home tonight. If you have any option to, please stay home tonight and stay off the roads so the people who are here to keep them clear can do their work. With that, let's take a few questions. Dave.
Mayor Comanche, we're aware school is in session today. So, two things. What is your thought process about possibly closing schools tomorrow? And also, given your criticism years ago about how that blizzard was handled in 2010, how much do you feel like we have to get this right, given your criticism now that you're responsible?
Yeah, I don't feel we have to get this right because of my past criticism. I feel we have to get this right because I'm mayor of the city of New York and because we're all devoted to protecting our people. We have to get it right. There's no question about it. And that's why there is extraordinary readiness here. We're not taking anything lightly. We know that the number of inches may go up or it may go down. We know the winds may be stronger or weaker, but we know we have to be ready. And I want to give very consistent messages to the people of the city. Take this seriously. Make preparations. Stay in tonight. Get off the roads tonight so we can make sure that tomorrow will be as smooth as possible. The schools is going to be, by definition, a game time decision. We have until the early morning hours to make that final, and I mean early morning hours. Tony Shorus and I may not get a lot of sleep tonight as we see down to the last moment what makes sense. It's not something you do lightly. We don't close schools lightly. We'll watch as this develops, and we'll make a decision in the early morning hours tonight. Grace.
Mayor, when you've spoken about past snowstorms, you talked about waiting for days for your own street to get plowed.
I remember it vividly.
Have you given the sanitation commissioner any specific instructions about priorities in terms of
think that I have tremendous respect for this commissioner, and again, I was very heartened by seeing the readiness of his team today. We spent a lot of time today, in fact, looking at different parts of the city that we think might be particularly in need of support if this storm hits harder. And we talked specifically about making sure the resources were there in parts of Queens, for example, that might be particularly important to focus on, the Rockaways, for example. So I have said throughout my recent experiences, I believe government needs to serve all 5 boroughs equally. And that begins today with this storm. We're going to make sure that the resources are sent where the need is, regardless of which borough that is in. Yes, Mara.
Mayor, where do you plan to manage the city throughout the course of the storm, and how constant can we expect updates from your office?
We're going to give you an update in a couple hours at OEM, and then as we see anything change and evolve, we're going to be constantly giving you additional updates. I'm going to be making sure that I'm very close to the action later on tonight as we go into tomorrow. So anytime we think something has changed that we need to communicate to the people of the city, we'll at that moment immediately alert all of you and give you updates. But this is going to be, for me, a very hands-on experience.
So does that mean you'll be here in the city throughout, or will you be in Brooklyn during the course of the storm?
Well, you know, some people use the phrase "the city" in different ways. It will depend on what's going on at any given hour. It would be nice to go home and sleep a bit tonight in Brooklyn, but it will all depend on what happens. So depending on what we see, I may have a long night in Manhattan. But any way you slice it, I intend to be on top of the action, and I intend to be where the problems are occurring so I can see for myself. Marcia. Yes. Well, that's the... Please. I didn't hear about that. Never heard about John Lindsay or Jane Byrne or any of those people. Look, before you even think about the politics or anything else, the bottom line is this is our job. You know, one of the things I said in the inaugural speech yesterday, and I meant it because a lot of my life has been in the service in New York City. The first thing we do is we protect people's lives. We keep the streets safe and clear. You know, we have very fundamental material obligations to the people of the city. So this is anyone who chooses to run for this particular job I hold now comes here to protect people, just like these gentlemen do. And so we're going to make sure that the streets are being attended to so that we have those safe routes for ambulances. That's why I want to emphasize, and Commissioner Doherty's team is entirely on top of this, but we need the people of the city to participate. You know, Commissioner Bratton said earlier that just like public safety is a situation of mutual responsibility, we need the people of the city to help us keep the city safe. Well, tonight we need the people of the city to help us keep the streets clear. If the people of the city, to the maximum extent humanly possible, stay home tonight, then the good men and women of the sanitation department will keep these streets clear so emergency vehicles can get by. Sally. It's obviously always depends on specific circumstances. There's no perfect mathematical formula or algorithm. It's a combination of factors. Remember that storm in 2010? The snow accumulated in a particularly fast manner. That was one of the challenges that had not been seen so frequently before. We're looking at all the factors here: the snow, the wind, the ice, the temperature. And we'll keep a close look at all those and decide if we think the current measures we're taking are enough or if we think we have to do more. Again, at this moment, in the last couple of hours, the news has gotten a little better. But that doesn't mean we're not going to be 100% vigilant. So again, Commissioner, at any point, add or clarify if there's anything I'm missing. But I think the point here is we're going to look at every measure we have to take. I think an emergency declaration of the type you're talking about is in the most extreme circumstances. Obviously, we're hoping here that we do not have one of those situations.
One comment I would add, though, is that for the drivers in the city, and we're asking everybody to stay off the road, I fully expect that tomorrow morning there'll be no alternate side parking either, so people can get their cars parked and leave them there and not be concerned about moving it in the morning. I mean, even if we get 3 or 4 inches, I'm not going to be out sweeping the streets, so I'm going to be canceling alternate side parking. So people should be relieved about that. Leave your car where it is. Don't be driving if you don't have to.
Last question, guys.
I'm going to emphasize that point again as a very recent former motorist. Leave your car where it is. It will be safe. No alternate side parking tomorrow. Last question, yes. Why not? Let's be different. I've been very clear about this. This is a 5-year plan. It has to be sustained. We need all of the resources that we've asked for in order to sustain it. And the only way to do that is with a very specific and dedicated tax on those who make $500,000 or more. That's our mission, and we're committed to it. All right. Have we covered it all? All right. Thank you, everyone. A very happy New Year to you.